hundreds of games on Azir at this point in his career, so also something that we might want to think about. And then the Orianna by default sort of goes a little bit further down, but we've got things like Vi still available in the jungle if they want to go for a Vi Xin Zhao trade, or maybe some Xayah getting locked in as well.
I could see that as well. The Pantheon is going to be the final focus for JDG. We'll get the Trundle ban there for AL as well. So some big ticket junglers going to be off the table here. Some things that we have seen both teams kind of lean on towards as well. But the Vi is also going to be banned there. So heavy jungle focus right now between the two, at least in the banning phase. We'll see what that first pick is going to be, and it's the Xin Zhao.
Yeah, with Trundle off the board, this just is the premier S-tier jungler. And like I said in the pre-show, Xun on Xin Zhao can just occasionally take over games. Looking at responses for Tarzan, potentially on 3 if you want solo laners here. We're looking at that way up of Azir versus Talia, and it looks like for Shanks, he's actually going for something a little bit different from what I would have anticipated, taking the Talia earlier on. And instead of locking in one of those top laners, right, we see Gwen and Rumble still available. Sometimes they hit the ban table as well. So top lane not elected to be gone for here by Flandre, instead giving the choice over to JDG which one of those they'd like.
I'm very curious at this drop by AL. I mean, they go for the Wukong, something Tarzan can have a lot of strength on, but they're giving away some premier picks right now with that Gwen gone, and now the Orianna as well. The ball delivery with Xin Zhao is going to be extremely strong.
Yeah, we saw just yesterday that the Orianna can have a good laning phase versus the Talia. I'm surprised that AL didn't take the Gwen on 2, just to deny that pick away and really secure themselves some stable solo laners. Maybe they've got an answer though for Flandre. You know, a Jax, a Jace, something that can punish this Gwen early on could still come through. And that's the hope here, is that AL will see this answer, or see this Gwen on the top side and have that answer for it.
I was gonna make a hope joke, but I'm gonna let you get away with it this time. It'll come later.
We'll do it later on.
Rumble is the lock in there, so a lot of lockdown to lay up that equalizer. You're gonna need to find some other ways to really buff that up, and Hope is absolutely gonna get a carry champion here, at least a hyper carry. I'm sure, at least I really hope so, because the rest of the team is setting up for that. Now the Lucian ban is going to signal some of the focus for AL in the second phase.
Yeah, get rid of a couple of Peyz's really strong champions. I'd like to see JDG ban out that Rel as well. I think that Rel in particular works really well with the Rumble and the Wukong, just keeping people locked up on that equalizer is a very powerful tool, and Kael as well has looked very, very strong with that champion in tow. But for Hope, right, looking towards some AD carries that he can take, he's going to have to try and buy space regardless, because looking at what he's playing against, he's against Xin Zhao, who pops ulti, you can't auto-attack him. Against Gwen, pops W, you can't auto-attack her, can't do any damage to her at all. So for Hope this game, it is going to be really tricky for him to try and buy time or to buy any auto attacks. In tandem, he's got to deal with Orianna Ball, wherever that is, he kind of wants to be avoiding it. And something that he has looked really good on is this Corki, so I wouldn't be surprised if they try and buy a little bit of laning pressure early on and attempt to try and take that through the early game and push the advantage down bot side.
I could see that as well. The Lovers duo is up and available if they want to go for something along those lines, but saving these last couple picks for their bot lane here. I love to see it. We're still potentially going to get an AD counter pick, which I absolutely love and would love to see, and it looks like that's going to be the case here. So now begging the question, what Peyz wants to go, what Wink wants to go in this bot lane for JDG?
So they see the Rakan gets locked in, so immediate hard CC does look pretty good. Things like Leona, things like the Nautilus as well could have a pretty good impact. Also denying the Xayah if they wanted to, they could look to take that away from AL, that most likely duo going down to that bot side. And if you anticipate that that Xayah is going to come through, maybe looking at things that aren't as easy to input, things that aren't as easy to get away from with your ulti, would be something to make note of. Noticeably though, going for this Senna does give you a little bit of a range advantage in that laning phase. Xayah typically a really low range AD carry, so we'll see if AL look to pivot. Of course, these two supports and the two champions can function on their own. You can play Xayah without Rakan and vice versa, so we'll see whether or not AL look to go for that. And with the Senna Nautilus locked in, it is one of those really powerful duos that can quite easily sustain themselves and as well look for a bit of a skirmish. Looking across the entire team for JDG, I love the way the Senna synergizes with a Gwen and a Xin Zhao, two champions that want to dive in, want to go forward. This is now a secondary shielding process for those divers. Between the Orianna Ball and the Dawning Shadow, JDG can go front to back very easily.
Yeah, and Peyz will have highs and lows, and when he's strong on the Senna, but he's really there to support and help the rest of the team in a lot of ways. And I think that's a really interesting way to put Peyz into a game, number one itself, but really leaning on this top trio that we talked about coming into the draft as well for JDG. On the other side for AL, they have some serious team fight potential, but how do those in-betweens look, Rood?
I think getting to that, you know, one item for Rumble, for Tilia, for the Wukong is going to be really straightforward for them. The Gwen needs a little bit of time. The Orianna needs a little bit of time. It's mainly on Jun, actually, on this Xin Zhao, to make things happen in the early stages of the game. As we get to the hyper late game, both of these AD carries will deal monstrous damage. I think that Sivir is a little easier to do that on, just with the ricochets, but the Senna as well, we know, at a certain point will just hit 700 range, max capacity, and it is just untouchable in these fights. It's whether or not she can get through the front line in the time with which it takes for JDG to get through, or to get through the rest of the team as well. For AL, we talked about the fact that they've got a massive team fight composition, and we're looking in particular at those junglers in this series. Jun has got the onus of, or the burden of execution a little bit earlier on. This Xin Zhao from level 3 onwards can get going. Unfortunately, on the flip side, it's level 6 and when they get going.
We're getting into game number 1 of our final series of the night in JDG's home arena. Let's see if they can take down AL. Crowds out in force, level 1s as well. You'd love to see it.
I think this ward down on the bot side is really important, that JDG are able to sweep away. You're playing up against a Nautilus, right? So any opportunity to command a bit of control over that brush down on the bot side is going to be really important. And just making sure that you can, you know, play that Fog of War, try and get some stacks on the Senna nice and early. Playing up against a Rakan and a Sivir, they're two very low-range champions, so finding those stacks for Peyz early on is going to be the ideal situation for JDG down on that bot side, and having that pressure of no ward in the brush as well is going to be a really big deal.
It's all about the mind games. It's the early games. Shun will be spotted out here. And I, for one, am all in and all here for the spellbook meta, Rood. I think it provides so much fun gameplay, especially in the LPL with the way they use it. I mean, we got TPs coming in, flanks from supports. It's actually been really
in particular,
cool.
I think Rakan uses it really, really well because he can get so much benefit from, first of all, things like a cleanse, but Ghost as well for Rakan is like a really big summoner spell if you can get access to it in a team fight, making his quickness even quicker. Nautilus, you know, a little bit less so, more combat stuns more than anything. Maybe a cleanse to get himself out to safety, but we're not looking at this Nautilus. Yeah, exactly. Those ones are those are the ones that I'm kind of like, It's been done. We've done smites on Spellbook, and it is adding to the game as well.
All right, we're going to see this push end up coming to fruition for AL on the bot side, as is expected with the Sivir. Even early, still can have that push. Once those ricochets start coming through as well, both junglers going to have started on the top side of the map, pathing down towards bot lane. Do want to see when this skirmishing between the two kicks off, because I think it can happen early and often, but as you were saying in the draft, maybe Shun a little bit favored in those 1v1s, at least right now.
Small thing that just noticed here is that Peyz's Q can miss even though he's targeted it onto Hope. Hope actually backstepping at just the right time. The programming on Senna Q is anticipation as opposed to direct. So as soon as Hope backsteps there, he actually dodges out on A, taking any damage, and then B, giving over the soul as well. Really like the step-up play from Hope in this 1v1 that he had up against Peyz just then. But looking at this Senna, you know, scaling and farming quite nicely. Only one CS missed on either side by both of our AD carries, so they are more than happy to just sit back, chill out, farm their way up. And with both of our junglers making their way to this bot side, it's Jun who struck first down there, but not the one who's going to get the crowd. With no access to bot push, and it's Jun that loses out.
Yeah, he's going to see the bad news. He was also spotted on his way across mid. Will be continually spotted on his way to try to get the top scuttle. Should be fine to get that objective at least, but the early reset for Tarzan will mean he's first back out on the map after the bye.
And as we look later on into this game then, Mazel, we already highlighted that there's a really good sort of one-item spike for the Wukong, the Rumble as well, but when they get to the late game, AL in particular, not going to feel like they can't win the game anymore. I think their team fight is really solid. They've got big ultimates with Kael, Tarzan and Flandre. If they can layer those quite nicely, there's not a lot of mobility on the backline of JDG in particular, so they should get caught up, should get taken down by those quite easily. And then of course they've got the Sivir ripping through them as well. My main concern comes from actually the front line of JDG and how well it'll be for the Gwen and the Xin Zhao to get access to Hope and to Shanks. The thing that I want to keep our eyes on is the fact that Hope actually has Ghost, so he can actually kite out Xiaoxu, kite out Jun a little bit easier than if he had the barrier.
Now we do look at the map state right now. Peyz and Wink had made the move up towards top side. Flandre is going to have to fight off the 1v2. Xiaoxu had gone down towards bot side. Now Peyz flashes, gets the root, the wind becomes lightning, and Shun trying to look for this first blood, and does it up striking gold. JDG on the board.
That's exactly what we want from Jun early on. He's a jungler, a Xin Zhao that can have agency at that level 3 marker. Tarzan, if he goes to a lane, he's going to dash on somebody, he's going to queue them, and they're just going to keep walking away. You don't have the damage early to make those plays happen. But from Jun, nice and early doors, set up by Peyz with a lovely W flash, he's able to make a play happen.
More souls going to Peyz as well, and about half health for Flandre as he comes back out with his TP. Seeing Xiaoxu did end up getting his back off, going to redeploy back down towards that bot side, so it seems like they're going to keep presence down there. AL is going to take the dragon with the vacuum of space in this bot side.
And there's not going to be a trade for the grubs this time around. Tarzan has sort of elected to forego that top prio in exchange for securing a dragon, but Flandre's bleeding out here on this top side. This wave is pushing away from him, JDG, and making sure that he's denied not just gold but experience as well. This is a really solid move from him just to make sure that he can get access to some gold. Don't think he got that cannon, but Xiaoxu here, he's down a level on Hope, so does need to be very careful. But this wave is coming into the Gwen, which is important.
It is. Going to be able to catch up a little tiny bit. It's still going to be difficult to live down here, at least to survive well. And that's where I got to look back towards jungle influence. Are we okay with Tarzan kind of playing the map a little bit more so than playing to be proactive and finding influence, even though we're about a minute and 15 seconds away from grubs?
I think that's necessary, right? He's playing the Wukong, and the nature of this draft is that, unfortunately, AL won't have that same jungle prio, or same jungle presence in the early stages of the game. The Xin Zhao can do that, the Wukong simply cannot, so it comes back to that blue one from JDG. They've given themselves this opportunity, and it's good to see them leveraging that as well. Early on, making these aggressive moves into the enemy's jungle. Juni's level 6, he can try to steal this away, and he's got a little bit of an opportunity between the level 6 from Peyz as well, and that move over from Orianna to find something in this top side.
That's a Chad control ward right there. I love it from Wink. Because they can just use this team pressure to invade and take away Tarzan's jungle. Xiaoxu's going to go for the all-in on the Flandre. He's going to use all of the needlework on him, takes him down low. Flandre might have a rebuttal now, though. Still has the equalizer available. Tarzan going to look for the play, goes for the flash over the wall. Soon in trouble. Dawning Shadow comes across. They have a lot of damage, but it's not enough yet. Peyz is going to take down Kael. Now it's the play on a Shanks here, too. A Scout finds a nice little hit with that shockwave. They will end up looking at the exit as grubs are spawning. AL are going to get to stick around.
Yeah, they'll probably be able to take one or two of these, maybe even all three with the way that JDG are recalling, but it was Jun getting caught out in that topside jungle. Tarzan, I think, getting level 6 off of a smite fight versus Jun over the red buff, and then being able to take the fight versus the Xin Zhao afterwards. Actually able to ding that level up marker because he wins out on the smite fight is what turns that fight into a winning position for AL. Overall, it's only a 1-for-1 plus grubs, but it's AL taking both neutral objectives early on and finding an even trade on kills too.
And that's going to mean a lot in this little back and forth that we've had, even though the grubs still have one up over there. Looks like maybe some pity prizes for JDG to be picked up, but we see this play between Tarzan and Shun, and yep, there you go. Gets the red buff, a steal away from Shun, and ends up taking the fight after.
So he was already level 6 off of the Krugs, but even still wins out on that smite fight, and the red buff in this skirmish is going to be very, very powerful as well. I feel like AL could have got a little bit more here. Tarzan, unfortunately, missing out on that seismic shove does allow Peyz and Scout to both be able to walk out to safety. But even still, a 1-for-1 when you're able to use the grubs to take this after the fact. It's not a bad position for AL to find themselves in, as Xiaoxu now hops off of the seismic shove, but still takes a good chunk of damage from those pebbles.
You gotta be careful with all these dashes. Shanks can lay it out in the right timing. Gets a little bit more difficult. He is pushing pretty heftily into this top side. But soon back out on the map, could be looking, but is just gonna go for the scuttle. We have about a minute and 15 seconds till that next dragon. You have to remember AL had taken the first one. It's gonna be on a pretty quick timer, maybe not the fastest timer of all time, but still gonna be something that AL can build towards, and that's the biggest picture for AL, is building towards this team fight potential.
And making sure that Hope, importantly, can reach that 2, 3, honestly 3-4 item marker on the Sivir. One of these champions that really, really benefits from 100% crit chance. Getting those ricochets across the team is, you know, what can help her just absolutely rip through people. And it is, most importantly, for these AD carries, I think the storyline that we want to follow is this Peyz versus Hope saga, almost, as maybe Peyz coming in to replace Hope once upon a time, but looking at Hope versus his former organization, the JDG 2022 roster that he really sort of made a bit of a name for himself on, and now he's on this AL squad where I feel like he's getting that international notoriety as well with his performance at MSI, you know, having mammoth performances on Illusion, now looking at a Sivir in a domestic setting. Yes, the stakes are much lower, but up against this JDG organization, there's something just a little bit more personal to it.
We're taking a look at the map state now because that dragon had spawned, and we do have some first item markers being hit. I believe it was JDG's side of things as well, with the static shift for Peyz, as the Sundered Sky for Xun. Not yet there for AL, but they are deployed on this side of the map.
Only advantage so far for AL is a couple of 100 gold in that mid lane, but we look across the items. The only real disparity is in that jungle role.
They're invisible. Ooh. Fine.
Okay.
They're just ghosts. You can't be scared of
Still
ghosts,
go in,
although Hope might need to call the Ghostbusters.
So a spellbook ghost used by, I believe, Wink, a TP behind Scout, and he doesn't appear to have seen this just yet.
Well, the equalizer signals it though. Shanks wants the angle, waiting for the seismic shove, can't connect it.
Wow.
Does get about half health on Scout, but it will not be the kill they were looking for, and that's also the TP burn.
Very surprised that Scout doesn't even have to flash there, but he's able to just phase rush, walk himself out to safety, and actually not really in too much trouble.
Use the Weaver's Wall here. Does have damage. Misses another seismic shove, but might just be able to run Scout down the flash play on the other side of the shockwave.
Yeah, landing those Ws when there's no CC, it is really difficult. It's why we talk about Talia being one of these champions that needs setup from their jungler, but even still, Shanks struggling a little bit to find the mark with these spells, but forces Scout's flash. I think even if it was underneath, you know, it was looking like it was going to land, it probably just forces Scout to flash that instead. So overall, they get the best benefit that they were ever going to be able to get out of it. You can see once again that Shanks is extending that gold lead a little bit as well. Now he's going to get a couple of plates. This is in sacrifice to Flandre, though. Splitting XP, splitting this gold, while Gwen is getting free time on that top side to take turret plates for herself. We looked at it in the pre-show that this top lane head-to-head, Xiaoxu, as far as top laners go, has had a very good gold disparity at that 15-minute marker, where we're heading to that same junction again. And Xiaoxu currently 700 gold up over his counterpart.
And that Gwen is always going to be a Gwen.
Yeah.
Can always be able have that kind of carry potential in games. And it's going to be a good place for Xiaoxu to find some advantages as time goes on. Kind of combat that scaling that we were talking about, or at least that team fight potential that AL has. As he will be hitting that first item as well. The Rift Maker will be completed. JDG going to try to push in mid lane. We do have the Rift Herald coming up in about a minute and 20 seconds. And already, AL have had pretty significant objective control.
And one of the things that we praised AL for through regular season and into MSI as well was the way that their jungler Tarzan was able to find these objectives, and most importantly as well, his linking up with Kael to look for plays and to set up that vision. And it feels like in the early stages of this game we've not seen Tarzan go particularly for any aggressive plays even post this level 6. What we have seen though is him dominate those neutral objectives. AL are currently up in every regard. There's a Herald spawning in 40 seconds. I think that's the window where I'd like to see JDG try to punish and try to make something happen.
Scout should hit that first item now on this back coming through here. So as we get the redeploy coming out onto the map for this Rift Herald, as I'm wondering if he's actually going to be able to complete it. Maybe he's waiting for a little bit of gold. Does almost have his TP back up as well. He's been sitting in base for a long while. There you go. He just had to wait for like 20, 25 gold. But we'll be going to Ludens first. And this Rift Herald fight's important. Oh.
Quite aggressive as the wall comes down.
Shun's going to have to flash. That's unfortunate there, as it's just the Weaver's wall play. He ends up getting Shun's flash, so the steal becomes difficult. The entrance becomes difficult, but JDG want to enter nonetheless.
And for me, it's about burning these flashes and then doing something with them. We saw Scout lose his flash 3 minutes ago. Hasn't really been punished, and JDG looking to take this fight. This is where that punish needs to come through from AL. There are 2 carries, no flash. Try to take them down. Kael has ult, has flash. This Orianna is a sitting duck.
You're gonna get the TP coming in, and AL just give that entire side of the map. They're gonna ping down towards bot, try to get this outer turret. It's gonna be slim pickings there for them, just trying to recoup a little bit of that gold. It's still a very dead even game. But that Rift Herald will open things up in mid lane. It should gets a little bit handsy here. He's going to throw up the Rift Herald and might just throw up his life. Depth charge going to be used by Wink to make sure he can get out. The charge comes through.
The zoning quickness there from Kael as he just ults and then doesn't use his W to walk forward. I mean, for AL, this is like, they're still losing out on this. If they can't get something mid lane.
Oh, they actually are looking on Peyz here. He doesn't really have any escape tools. Dawning Shadow buys time, but the seismic shove ends his life. Shanks finds the kill, and now they're going to follow up. Double shockwave, though, to respond. They end up finding good damage onto Kael, and he will end up falling. Shun's still alive here. Another seismic shove.
How is Hope alive?
Xiaoxu coming alive, too. Now with this needle work, will only hit the tip of it. And that is a crazy fight 16 minutes in.
Yeah, and I mean, I want to credit Wink for his play around this setup and around that dive. Actually did pretty much everything he could to keep Peyz alive for as long as possible, and through Flash Barrier and the Dawning Shadow coming down, he buys a lot of time, allows the TP to come through, and allows for JDG to punish AL for this overdive. So to keep your eyes on Wink here. Keeps an ulti onto the backline to try and keep them separated for as far as possible, and actually rooting up the Rakan on his entrance to this as well. Rehooks in Tarzan to allow for a double knock-up, and then able to also follow up and keep himself alive in the back half of this is the really important part. The fact that Hope is able to walk out through this topside jungle, I think if Scout had just refocused his attention to the topside, might have been able to find something a little bit better. You know, AL allowed to get Hope out, but I think that's a little bit lenient really from JDG.
Yeah, honestly, as now we have about 20 seconds for this next dragon. Weaver's Wall is going to be used onto Peyz. They try to catch him out again. They realize he has no summoner spells. They get the outer tower, what they came for. Now they're going to collapse back over to the dragon. Would be that soul point on Mountain Soul for anyone's legend.
It's about if they can get those resets. They made a big play to try and take that tier 1 turret and committed Hope's ultimate as well to do so. Again, in a position where gold is about even, not really anything to split hairs between in any of these roles. It's JDG, though, that have started up this dragon. They're there first.
Scout's got an angle. Oh, they just take the fight. I think Shun wanted to try to take the dragon. Now Wink has overextended. He's about to give his life as well. Tarzan finds a big cyclone onto the backline. Kael, he's just dip diving and dodging all over him. It's like pinball, and he's the ball. Right into the hole goes AL, and right into the soul point fight.
And JDG just weren't anywhere for that. Like, they didn't do anything. Wink went forward, looked for a hook. He managed to get away between Locket and a couple of shields from the rest of the team. But JDG just did nothing. They've still got Shockwave, Dawning Shadow, still got Needlework. They just didn't even bother trying to take that fight. Kind of resigned to the fact that they'd lost that before it even started. Now AL are sat with Soul Point ready, and in 5 minutes time JDG aren't going to have that same luxury where they can choose to just not go in. Seems like they're just on a completely different page as Wink, you know, unfortunately hooks a wall instead of Shanks. And look at how he's able to get out of here, by the way. Shield comes through from W. Shield from Scout comes through. Locket as well buys time. But JDG just never once commit to this fight. Kael buys all of that space. There's an equalizer down on one side, and Kael just sort of dancing through everyone as well. Means that there's no entry for JDG, and they never really felt like it either.
And AL will take the lead off that, although a small advantage for them. Something they can absolutely build on. If they're in the advantage, well, it doesn't get easier, it feels like, for JDG until they can hit those big spikes. And speaking of some spikes, we are hitting those 2 items for some members here. Peyz already has his rapid fire completed. And more importantly for Hope, he's got damage. He's got IE, he's got Yuntals.
I was going to say, if we're looking at 2 item spikes for AD carries, I'm more headed toward the Sivir, and I think that at this point in the game, Hope is so happy with his position. Yes, he's not going to be able to sort of do the 1v9 pop-off team fight. We don't quite have the Navori Flicker Blades coming through just yet, so the cycling of those Qs and Ws isn't quite as present. But versus the Senna, the Sivir is going to do so much more damage, and the 1v1 and the damage output in team fights is not even close. But that's kind of not why you take Senna at this stage in the game. You've still got Xiaoxu, who's going to do a lot, Jun, who's going to do a lot, the Scout Orianna Ball as well, quite present in these team fights. It's when we get to the hyper late game that the Senna starts to come online. At the minute, Senna offers utility, offers you the shield through ulti, offers you the heals across longer, drawn-out fights. And it's about Peyz reaching that 4th, 5th item where he can start to take over.
And that's going to be the spikes we're waiting on. Those are the moments we're waiting on, as it is AL collapsing to try to take this outer turret. They might have just made a fast play on the Scout. Scout instantly flashes, but he can't get out. Equalizer comes down as well. He's in trouble. He's left out by his lonesome. Even the depth charge couldn't save him, as AL strike again. And now they're just going to go for the Atacon.
Yeah, this whole time Xiaoxu decided he wasn't committing to a fight here. He was splitting. He was going to take some gold. And it kind of left Scout out to dry almost. Look at the vision coverage on this top side for AL. Pink Ward's very deep in the jungle, and Kael and Shanks zoning them away right now. Xiaoxu TPing in, but this is 5v4.
Yeah, it's a bold TP, and the Atacon's already gone. So really not going to find anything off the back of that. They're going to try to collapse into mid, maybe take down this outer turret. It is just a really blow away from getting taken out, so they'll get some of that gold back at least. Yeah,
I do think that JDG just a little bit lost on the map here. Xiaoxu should have kept on pushing, tried to threaten that tier 2 turret in that mid lane as well. Peyz, I'd like to see him get this a little bit sooner. You can see now they're behind on the play to set up for Dragon. Peyz has got to go back to base and now walk out to that bot side, try to defend his vision that his team is setting up. But look at the rest of AL. Hope's already clearing this mid wave. Now he can move into the jungle, move down to this bot side and help out his squad. And AL, they can completely run this bot side jungle. JDG walked top lane to have a look at the Atacon falling instead of doing anything productive on the map.
Kael moving in now. Be that forward sword for AL. Tarzan stealing away the Chicky Nuggies from Shun. Shun's going to get engaged on by Tarzan, instantly going for the Cyclone Flash from Shun, trying to get out. Crescent Guards use, Equalizer down. They have a lot of damage here, but the Dawning Shadow is going to save a lot of it. Shun going the other way, gets away from Shanks, but Xiaoxu is already down. Flandre had taken his life from him. Peyz tries to get some damage back into it, but JDG, they have to close ranks. They have to find something here, Rude.
And it's just desynced, you know, we're looking at the timings of these ultis. Jun goes in, he's able to buy a lot of time, then Xiaoxu goes in, he buys a lot of time, ends up falling, and then Scout comes in after all of that, then uses the shockwave. It just doesn't feel like JDG are anywhere near on the same page. Like they've really got an idea of when or why they want to go for these fights. Would like to see them try and consolidate a little bit in when and where they're looking to try and take these skirmishes. If they're going to contest vision, then contest. But you can see that Jun's kind of half in, half out, not really making too good of a maneuver. And Hope is just free-firing this whole time. AL, largely 5 members strong and a massive core as we look back to live.
Meanwhile, it looks like a deja vu, but this time it's in mid lane. Scout is just taken out from the team surgically as AL try to cut off the rest of the squad. They end up finding Wink with it. A double kill to Hope, who, just like in their last series, is popping the hell off. and he is feeling himself now in this rise for anyone's legend.
And on this Sivir as well, he's got so much safety between the Flash and the Ghost and that spell shield as well, that he never really needs to be threatened by any single spell from JDG. Because they're so disorientated, because they aren't going in together, Hope's got time to cycle through his E cooldowns. Because he's never getting Nautilus ultied in tandem with a Xin Zhao jumping on him with an Orianna Shockwave. This combo of Xin Zhao Ori should be really easy to plug and play. Scout puts the ball on June, and then you hop on top of the Sivir. But Hope is playing with so much space, and also JDG are playing so haphazardly, so disconnected, that they're not able to execute on that.
And this was the biggest conversation, the biggest question coming in, is why I was so excited to see what these teams were going to bring to us, because both of them finally coming off a win. JDG in this weird topsy-turvy up and down state, but AL, they just got their first win of Split 3, the champions from Split 2. And it's so crazy to me have seen that fall, but everybody talks about the MSI hangover. Everybody talks about what that brings to teams, and it's AL that finally look like themselves a bit here.
And I will say we've been here before. All 3 series that AL have played, they've looked very convincing in game number 1.
But they haven't won on red side.
They haven't, this is true. I would argue that this is maybe the least convincing that they've looked on game 1, even though this looks like they are doing exactly what they need to. This isn't nearly as dominant, let's say. It feels like JDG have kept
that's the
pace,
biggest difference.
let's say. But AL will look very well poised at this stage in the game to just go and take a win and probably be, you know, game 1 winners in this situation. Fighting up against a Mountain Soul is not going to be easy. We're waiting for a long time before the Senna, you know, gets to a critical stage. Infinity Edge doesn't really feel like it's going to do the job for JDG at this point, as anyone's legend kind of dancing on this top side, trying to starve out Vision away from the Baron, because they've got 4 minutes before they need to do something on the bot side with regard to that Elder. So now is the time to have some fun at the Baron.
That's the big thing for me, is that AL are playing so reserved. They know they have this team fight special that they can really use to force the issue against JDG. And speaking of, they're going to force the issue by starting up the Baron, try to get the TP out, try to get these tools out. It was all a bait, JDG. You chomped right down on it, and it was poison. Scout is able to get out with his flash. He's in a little bit of trouble now, but JDG will be licking their wounds after that one.
And there's not really been any protection for Scout, whether he's just in a bad position all the time or whether he's not walking with his frontline or frontline isn't walking with him. Kael's getting access to this Orianna quite frequently, and it's not necessarily what we would expect.
Flandre had to run away. They're going to start up the Baron again. This is a bit bold from AL. Maybe second time to charm.
Good
Weaver's wall going to buy time. They're going to try to burn it. This is a little bit questionable as Chun goes in for the fight. Tarzan's already getting locked down though, but he's cycloning his way out. He makes an escape, but they already found one back, as now some of those damage, some of that AoE is really ringing true. Peyz finds the flash play. That was devastating, and JDG find a little bit of something. Tarzan comes back into the fight, finds another one, swinging his stick around, and Shanks throwing rocks. It's like we're in the Stone Age, but it's working for anyone's legend.
And barely AL come out on top of that. A very back and forth team fight. I think the Mountain Soul having some pretty big ramifications here. Some massive shielding coming through just as players try to commit to a secondary fight. No Baron taken down though, and for JDG that's a win. They stop the Baron going down, and honestly, they don't lose out on much more than anyone's legend. They get a big shutdown as well. Peyz is able to flash forward, take a massive shutdown onto Hope. And yes, AL are going to take a couple of jungle camps, but AL will have been in this position and thinking, damn, we would have liked a pretty clean fight, and to have the Baron off the back of this as well. This fight gets split up. We get to see the power of Xin Zhao and Gwen. Flandre's ulti, after they get sort of separated by this Weaver's Wall, first of all, creates a decision for Peyz and Scout. Do they want to go over and commit, or do they come back and wait for that to go down? You can see that they elect to go backwards, but also Hope's trying to auto-attack here, but he's not actually doing any damage because Gwen W's down, Xin Zhao ulti's down. And all this time, we're not quite getting that Sivir power. Peyz flashes in and decides, I've actually had enough, I'm going to take this AD carry down. And then we see this re-engage. But back on live, they're dancing around the Baron once again, Mazel.
I mean, AL are just returning to the pot here, stirring it a little bit, if you will. Shanks has a bit of an angle. He does not have the Weaver's Wall available to him. Looks like it was just used on the hunt, also popped by Hope. Engage not going to be there just yet from JDG. They find the seismic shot, the equalizer, Scouts down. They find the middleman, and now they're about to spread them apart. They find yet another pick on the wink as well, and JDG, they're trying to retreat. They're throwing up the white flag. Please, mercy, anyone's legend.
Shanks with a great pick onto Scout. A massive flick means that the mid laner from JDG falls, and AL are going to be rewarded with the Baron.
Oh, man.
Wink throws away his life as well. We'll ignore Shanks' flash after the fact, but AL come up trumps.
And it's not a good game all around from JDG, but man, if it's not the talk of the town of how Scout has not been able to perform for this team all year, honestly.
Yeah.
And he is the one that gets picked out 2 times in a row.
And honestly, just a great flick from Shanks. If you want to have a little laugh here, we can watch him again. Looks for a second onto Xiaoxu, not quite able to find it. Does sort of throw away his flash, but even still, the Baron is secured, and AL now in a much better spot than they were probably just a minute ago.
Like, what do you do in this streak? You are so backs against the wall. Now you have, like, the game-deciding objective already in the fight.
Honestly, for JDG, I don't know what they do. It's a really tricky spot for them to be in.
Questions.
Many difficult questions, Mazel, and I've sat here trying to figure out an answer for you. I'm afraid it's just not possible.
The answer
JDG, they're looking for a flip.
Is to just start it up. Yep, why not?
I mean, they see Kael coming around on
this is a commit. They're literally TPing on the wrong side of the fight, or at least the opposite side of the fight here. Here comes Shanks, AL. They're just going to try to close this one down. Wink's already going out. That's the front line shattered for anyone's Legends fight going forward into JDG, and it's looking like a party for anyone's Legend. They even throw up the panda emotes. Everybody's having a good time except for JDG.
Game number 1 for AL. A colossal fight down around the bot side. Clean ace. Never really looked close. JDG, a bit of a desperation play. They weren't really going to get much better of a situation than that, and that kind of tells the story of it.
Yep. And anyone's Legend, for the first time in the split, they will find a red side win. It was their namesake, it felt like, in split number 2. They were the red side team. They were one of the only teams that felt like would choose red side. And now they finally find that win, especially off that momentum of coming off a win finally over WE. It looks like they've taken that momentum and honed it into a weapon to use against JDG.
Yeah, really solid weapon as well. And I mean, yes, we've been here before where we've been happy, we've been really excited by AL. I want to cultivate everyone's expectations that their series that they played versus BLG, they did the same thing in game number 1. They looked incredible, and then all of a sudden BLG came alive.
You said it. You know, it's escaping me right now. There was like a phrase you used. I
said game 1 merchants, but I'm not
game
gonna...
1 Andes. That's
game 1 Andes. Yeah, game 1 Andes, game 1 merchants. They love a game 1. Do AL? They'll come out swinging. They'll come out punching. But I need to see them win this series. I'm not sold on them yet until the series is over.
That's true. I'm right there with you, man. Both these teams have been really lacking that consistency, and especially in the ultimate split of the year, when we have all those spots for Worlds on the line, but there's so many hurdles you have to jump through to even get to that point. You really need to start picking up those wins left and right. It's a double round robin, but less teams this year, so less games for you to middle round with. And anyone's Legend looking very clean in this game number 1. And that's where we can maybe take a little bit more of an introspective look at JDG, because they were running around like chickens with their heads cut off, Rude.
Yeah, and we made a big point about Scout getting caught out numerous times. I'd like to hammer home that it's not actually just Scout, like in these team fights. Yeah, absolutely. Everybody is sort of lost and not particularly doing what they're supposed to be doing, and it seems to me it speaks to a lack of planning almost going into these fights, where they're not too sure what it is they're looking to do. So it means that they're just kind of caught out, or they're not set up. They never felt ready to take any of those fights. And when you look at JDG, historically, they're a team that, with these players, can team fight really, really well. They've got some solid fighters in their roster. But that if they don't have those battle lines drawn, and if they don't have the, let's say, early setup ready to go, where they know what they're going to do, they're kind of struggling.
Yeah, they are indeed. Oh my God, that's a cliff. I mean, absolutely just blew up for anyone's legend. 31.5 minutes in, and it was all teed off of almost near perfect objective control from the very beginning.
Yeah, I mean, what is that? One Rift Herald and one Grub that ended up being picked up by JDG. So, you know, it's a very small advantage that they were able to find, and unfortunately not one that they were able to hammer home particularly. And I will say as well that when I look at AL taking this first game, obviously it fills you with that confidence, and looking at Hope again in particular really stood out as a player to keep our eyes on in that early game and into the late game as well, was very consistently doing the damage that a Sivir needs to do.
Yeah, and there were moments like this. I really liked the lane swap that we ended up seeing from JDG, but some punishes hit real hard from AL and just some really decisive moments. And for me, we could talk about the game when Andy stuff. That's cool. But this felt like, again, like I was saying in the cast, like a return to the AL that had been so decisive in Split 2, that we had seen good moments from. And especially the kind of using a great draft and then supplementing with great execution as well.
And that's how they get you, Mazel. That's how they get you. They reel you in. They reel you in with this game one, and they're like, yeah, guys, we're back. We never left, and then you get excited, and then you think
they have Tabe as the marketing manager. You know, I feel like he could sell me anything.
That's true. Honestly, that guy could, and that's absolutely where they're going with this. I think that he's the brains behind the project, where he also gives them, you know, impossible to win drafts in games 2 and 3, and that's what the story is that he's helping
like,
them
sell me this
get more
pen,
screen
and it
time.
just gets worse.
Starts off with the classic pitch. He does really well. You know, how about life? What do you value? And then all of a sudden he starts talking to you about gardening, and you're thinking, how does this relate to anything?
Well, hopefully there will be no gardening talk today, even though maybe some harvest got taken care of here for AL versus JDG. Ended up being a little bit more one-sided than the early parts of the game would maybe lead out to, but this was the devastating one. This was the moment that had kind of led to the beginning of the game, is Scout just not able to predict where that seismic shove was coming from.
And as well, right, we talked about, you know, Scout having a pretty shaky performance. Talk about Shanks stepping up at the crucial moment, finding that flick, literally finding the pick that wins them the game. Yes, the game was already, you know, pretty well off as far as it goes anyway, but he's the one who starts that fight. He's the one who finds the pick and is able to engage that target.
The pandas emotes are so cute. My God, they're all synchronized because it's the like, when you get the ace kind of thing.
Yeah,
I appreciate that the players have bought into the panda moniker. Like when Flandre was playing the Yorick, he was playing the panda cat skin thing where it turns everything into pandas. I mean, the whole team they've got their marketing scheme down, and I think it yes, looked good for game number 1. I guess we'll see if that ends up paying out in the long run of things. But who do you give MVP to for this game 1 of the series?
I'm not certain. I can't put my finger on it. I mean, Hope had a really solid performance. I don't think Tarzan had a bad game. I don't really think that Kael had a bad game, to be honest. I think that his Rakan was pretty instrumental in a lot of these fights. So anybody from the bot lane is who I'd be happy with. We can either have a Sivir win or a Rakan MVP.
All right, well, we'll see who ends up getting it. It's Tarzan. Neither of those. Get out of here, Roodood. As Tarzan with that objective control and constant pressure after he got that level 6 mark really felt good.
Yeah, that's fine. It's okay. I can understand it.
He
and I
did
can
nothing
see it
for like 50% of the game and still gets it. You know, it's fine.
Yeah, that'll happen. That'll happen occasionally.
That will happen, and it did happen, Roodood. But you know what else is going to happen? A little break while we get ready for that next game here as we're getting ready for the second between these two teams. We'll see if JDG can bounce back and bring us to 3 after AL's first red side win of the split, and we'll see you there.